Good morning. We're learning as this Chosr Refuah Shlema for Ilana Chaya Basarach and for Meir Ben Sarah Peril. We're at the Mishnah on Daf Yud Tes Amid Beis, in the middle of the. We're going to be talking now about Malika. Right? Malika is the Mishnah is going to mention some of the contrasts. The Malika is done by pressing a nail into the back of the head of the bird and cutting through. Cut through the simanim. Yeah, so we'll see how it differs. If someone shechts an animal or a bird from the side, right? There's three possibilities. You could shecht from the throat, you could shecht from the back of the neck, and you could shecht from the side. So you shecht from the side, the shechita is ksheira. Because, as we're going to see, shechting from the back is a problem because you cut through the spinal column before you get to the simanim. That makes the animal a treifa, or it kills the animal, more precisely. Treifa is not even exactly right. It kills the animal. You have a dead animal at that point, or no, I'm sorry. I said it correctly the first way. It becomes a treifa prior to shech, to get into the simanim, and that you can't do a shechita on an animal that's already a treifa. Right? Rashi, there's really no problem. But we say hamaylik min hatzdadin milikase psula. The malika, the Torah says exactly where you're supposed to do it. It says mimul arfai. Irif is some poor part of back of the neck. So it's now I have to be careful. I just called the back that thing the spine, and I don't know if that's really the case. But when you shecht from the back, you have a problem that makes it a treifa by going through those vertebrae in the back of the neck. But when you're meilik, you're required to do it from there. And the Gemara is going to talk about how it works by malika. Why don't you have that same problem? But I'm meilik min hatzdadin milikase psula because you haven't done it the way the Torah dictated, to do it in the back of the neck of the bird. This is what we referred to before. If you shech from the back of the neck of the animal, the shechita is possible. Rashi says, from the back of the neck, if you haven't removed the simanim, I guess it's a way to dislocate the simanim and take them behind the spinal column when you shech the animal from the back of the neck. He first cut the spinal column before getting simanim. It already got paralyzed. Obviously, when it's no longer viable to live once you cut the spinal column. By the time you get to the simanim, it's already a treifa. The malika ksheira hasum with the kula metchila vatsaif having min malika v'havik kshar sheikh and nekah zavesha ma'amat yigma shchitas. This is the malika. Basically, that's the way you're dictated. That's the way you're supposed to do it. So we're not concerned about it becoming a treifa because that's part of what the Torah required you to do the shchita. So we consider that part of the whole action. Get back to the Mishnah.
Isn't malika only in the base of the Mishnah?
Yeah.
For Chullin?
Malika Chullin is a treifa. It's not.
Right,
It's not going to be.
It's going to
be an avela. It's not even going to be a treifa.
When you're shechting a bird stamza, you have to do it the regular way, from the front.
Yeah. Hamoilik min ha'oref malikasa ksheira. If you do malika from the back of the neck, then the malika is kosher. I mean, Rashi goes to pains to say that this is l'chatchila. It's not that it's kosher in spite of you doing it. That's what you're supposed to do. But just wants to make everything symmetrical. since we said the sheichet is psula, we want to say min ha'arif is ksher. Hasheichet min hatzavar, someone who shechs from the back of the neck of a behema, shchitas ksher. I'm sorry. That's not. I'm sorry. Sheichet min hatzavar shchitas ksher. If someone shechs from the neck, tzavar is not the back of the neck. It's from the front of the throat. Shchitas ksher. Hamaylik min hatzavar. But if someone does malika from the front of the throat of the animal, malikase psula, that's going to be possible because you have to do it the back of the neck. Mimul arvai, not. So just to make it clear, malika, the Torah tells us where you're supposed to do malika. It's supposed to be in the back of the neck, as the Gemara and the Mishnah are going to say clearly. A shechita, there's no specific place that the Torah tells you. It has to be. We said hagrama, that it can't be too far up or too far down. But where around the neck it has to be is not important, except for the technical problem that you can't make it into a treifa before you get to the simonim. That's why it has to be either from the side or from the throat, not from the back of the neck where the spine is, because then you'll render it a treifa before shechting. So we say, if you do malika from the throat of the bird, malika is psula. Shekol ha'ayrav kasha malika, because the whole back of the neck is kasha malika. V'chalat saba kasha l'shchita, and the whole throat is kasha l'shchita. Nimtza kasha b'shchita pasal malika, kasha malika pasal b'shchita, and it's going to be what's kasha in one is going to be pasal from malika, and what's pasal kasha malika is going to be pasal b'shchita. The Gemara is going to say, what is this coming to teach us?
That's crazy. Mention one idea, saying
many different.
So many extra words just from that one idea.
Well, it's not really one idea. It's telling us it tells us a couple of things, right? It tells us.
Mishnah.
We're gonna ask Mike, what is it teaching us? Because this is, but it's also, taught us first of all that malika must be in the back of the neck, and it tells us that shchita is going to be a treifa if it's done in that place. It also tells them in that stadim.
Right, we've just done the last one.
Well, but it's more than that, right? Because we're saying minat stadim is kosher for shchita, even though that's.
It's not specified in the Torah.
Yeah. I'm saying I give the explanation, but the Mishnah had to tell us that. So come on, my arif. What do we refer to when we say the Eiref, which we said that's where you do Malika and you cannot do the Shechita? Hilema Eiref Mamish. The word Eiref itself actually means the back of the head, like of a bird. So the back of the head is not by the neck, it's the back of the head. It's above the Simonim and above the spinal column. So if you say, My ear Yeshaychet, Afilu Mailik Nami, then you wouldn't be Yaitse even Malika. If the Mishnah, when it says Eiref, meant the back of the head. Malika is not kosher in the back of the head of the bird either. Mimul arfai amar achmana, v'loi arfai. The Torah says mimul arfai, opposite, or, on kegen. I don't know how else to say it. That's where we touched it when we were in Cheder. Mimul arfai, the place that's, is visible from the Eiref, but not the Eiref itself. Elamai Eiref, Mimul Eiref. So since it doesn't, the Torah says Arfai, the Torah says Mimul Arfai. When the Mishnah says Eiref, it means Mimul Eiref. Keduktani Seifa, like it says in the Seifa, Kala Eiref Kasha Malika. Like it says in the Seifa, the whole Eiref is Kasha Malika. Now, if we're talking about the actual Eiref, the Taich of Eiref, which means the back of the head, what would you say Kala Eiref Kasha Malika? It's a very small area. There's no call about it. It's just the spot right opposite the bird's head. You ever heard the expression of bird brain? Birds don't have very big heads. Back of the heads is not a big area. Yeah. Just reminding me, I started talking to my doctor as I was getting prepared for my colonoscopy yesterday. I started talking to him about the blot, and he starts talking to me about shechting a giraffe, talking about how it's very difficult and people don't It's always like the challenging question where it should be very easy to do. He said the reason people don't do it is because it doesn't taste good, so no one really pursued it that much. That was the last thing I heard before I went over under. In any case, minohani mili. So the bird is the opposite. It's a very small area that you could. So it doesn't make sense. Arvai means the actual irif in the Mishnah, the back of the head, because then when we say kol irif kashamali. So our Mishnah had said. So we're saying that our Mishnah when it said irif is referring to the back of the neck, not the back of the head. Minoani mili. Where do we know that this is the case? Tan Rabban, mul arpai, mul harayas irif. Torah says mul arpai, and that means the part of the neck that is opposite the back of the head. That's what the pasuk says by Bilam. They're sitting opposite me, meaning where I can see them. But Amr v'Aimer and another raya, as we're going to see, they turn to me the back of their heads and not their face. My v'Aimer, what is it? What's added by this v'Aimer? If you're going to say, how do I know what the irif itself is? That you're saying mul arfai is the neck, because irif is the back of the head. Tashma ki panu alai irif v'lei panim. The Torah contrasts the irif to the face. He says, you turn your back to me and not your face. So it's saying that the irif is the back of the panim. Instead of being toward my face, it's toward the back of the head. So therefore, we put everything in constant. When it says mimul arpai, that means what is opposite the back of the head, which is the neck. Mechlal the irif lahadi panim. That tells you that the back of the neck, the irif itself, is by the opposite the panim, and like he said, mul arpai is. Sagt Gemara weiter. Amri b'nei Rav Chia. Mitzvahs malika. What's the mitzvah? How do you do malika? Machzer simonim la'acharei irif. We do like we said. You dislocate the simonim, the trachea, and the windpipe. Not the windpipe. I'm sorry. The esophagus of the bird. Umaylik, and you remove it out, and then you take the kohen takes his fingernail and cuts through them outside of the behemoth, outside of the neck. Hikad amri af machzer. Hikad amri machzer daf. Some say that this statement of the Bnei Rav Chia they're saying it that you have a choice. You can do it, just do malika the way we understand it. He takes his nail and presses it through the back of the neck till he gets the simanim. Or he has the option of taking out the simanim, and the other one says no, he has to do it this way in order to avoid first chopping through the spinal column before getting to the simanim. It's correct to say that you have a choice. Mimai, where do I know that from? Mitani, in our Mishnah we said if you shecht from the back, the shchita is psul, like we said, because you're going to break the spine first, make it a treifa. But you're meilik min ayir from the classic shape. The if you say he has to take out the simonim specifically, my area meilik afilu sheichet nami. Why would we say that malika from the back is kosher, but shchita is not? Why should shchita from the back not be kosher? If malika is always referring to taking out the simanim, what was the problem with shechting from the back of the neck? We said from shechting from this side, there's no tire. It doesn't tell you where the shechita must be. It has to be on the neck area, but it's the terrace. We have a Hilchos Gemiri law that says you have to do the simanim, but it doesn't say how you access them. So what difference does it make if you're taking out the simanim? What difference does it make if you do it from the back? Just like you do it from the side, why can't you do it from the back? The back of the neck. Elalav shmami no af machzit. When our Mishnah says Rav Chia, Bnei Rav Chia say your machzed, I mean, you have a choice to do it either by taking out the simonim or by going through. And when we said that you do the malika straight through the spinal column from the back of the neck, that's what we say shchitasai would be psul. And the Mishnah is talking about when we say that shchita would be psul, it's talking about where he didn't take out the siman. Amar of Yana, Yikabla Reuben es chuvasan. Reuben, Rashi says, is Na'arim. These bnei Rav Chia, these children of Rav Chia, these young fellows that are trying to say a pshat. They should accept that their pshat is incorrect. Because I have a kasha on it. The Tani nimtza kasha b'shchita pasal malika, kasha malika pasal b'shchita. Right? We had that seemingly extraneous end of our Mishnah. We said that which is kasha by shchita is pasal by malika, and that which is kasha by malika is pasal by shchita. Lemute mai. What is it coming to exclude? Lav lemute machzis semanim lachayra erev the light. L'chayra, it's coming to exclude that if it's telling you that if you take out the simanim, that it's kosher for shchita and it's possible malik. It means that you can't do it this way because the Torah said to do malika and doesn't give you the option of removing the simanim.
When you say remove the simanim, you want just like you move it out of the way so you don't go
dislocate them. Yeah.
So you don't go through the spinal cord
first, which by a shchita is clearly, it's clearly going to be a problem to go through the spinal cord first. That's going to make it a treifa. The question is, by a malika, is that you certainly don't have to take out the simanim. The question is, can you do it? Because the Torah told you should do malika from the back of the neck, from the arva. Rabba Bachana. Rabba Bachana disputes this kasha on the bnei Rav Chia. It's not necessarily what our Mishnah is coming to exclude, removing the simanim. It's coming to exclude doing a shchita with a tooth or with a nail. It's really what the real point is, the nail. We throw in the tooth gratis. The tzipirin, but the tzipirin, it's coming to tell you can't do a shchita with a nail. You have to use a knife. Correct tomorrow, because like we said before, it's mechuber. A tzipirin is mechuber, and therefore you can't do shchita with it. Correct tomorrow, shein v'tzipirin behedjik tanilu. We already said this. We had the Mishnah just a couple of blot ago. We said you can't shecht using a claw or a fingernail as long as it's attached. It's coming to exclude someone who does malika with a back and forth motion. Malika, there's another contrast that malika has from shchita. Shchita, we've said you go back and forth when you slice. Masha'en kain, malika is pressing. The person takes his nail, the kohen takes his nail and presses it through the back of the neck. So it's a different, which would be by shchita, pasal. That's what the pasuk is coming to tell you. What's kosher by shchita is pasal by malika. That malika you have to press. You can't go back and forth with the nail. This is not universal. It's a machlekes whether you're allowed to go back and forth, slice with the fingernail, or you must do a pushing motion. They take a hold. They take a hold like the mandama that says it's pasul, and therefore that's why they couldn't say that this is what it's coming to exclude. Yeah. So that's what the Mishnah is coming to exclude. It's not coming to exclude, like we were trying to suggest before, this din of removing the simanim, that you would not be allowed to do that by Malik. Amr of Kahana. Mitzvah Malika, the mitzvah Malika, kaitzitz v'yayri. He cuts and he goes down. He cuts the spinal cord and he continues pushing down. Bezuhi mitzvah. That's the mitzvah Malika. Savar Rabbi Avin Lamemer kaitzitz v'yayrid in Ma'ilchu Mevi Light. He wanted to say in this, like this machlekes that we just had, That's coming to tell you. Bedafka, he must push down with his fingernail, but he can't saw back and forth or slice back and forth like you do by a shchita. Amalei Rav Yirmiyah, kol shkein d'maylecha mevi malika kosher. He says, no, Adarabba, I'd say, when I tell you that you could be kaitzitz v'yared, I was telling you a rebusa, even though by shchita, being kaitzitz v'yared is not allowed, I was telling you by malika it is allowed. But certainly, he could be meilechu maybe like he does with shchita. If it's kosher by shchita, and being kaitzitz v'yared is possible by shchita, if we say kaitzitz v'yared is kosher by malika, certainly being meilechu maybe is kosher. When it said mitzvahs malika kaitzu yared the zuhi mitzvah, he just means to say that this is also an option, not that it's excluding being meilechu maybe. Amr of Yirmi Amr Shmuel, kala kasher b'shchita kenegde b'erev kasher b'malika. Very similar to the last statement of our Mishnah, but this is coming from an Amayra. He says whatever is kasher b'shchita, the opposite thing by the irif is going to be kosher, by the back of the neck is going to be kosher malika. Apostle b'shchita, the mashmois of this is that which would be possible by shchita would be possible malika. Lamute mai. What is it coming to tell you that's possible by shchita that we're saying would also be possible by malika? Ilema lamute ikur simanim. If you'll say it's coming to tell you ikur simanim. Now this is a peculiar use of the word ikur simanim. As Rashi explains over here, before we had said Iker Simanim was talking about when you use a knife with a notch in it, or you use a saw, all those things rip the Simanim, that's called Iker Simanim. But over here we're talking about a different thing. We're talking about where the person removed the end of the Siman, which for some reason, I'm not sure exactly why Rashi holds, that will not make him a treifa at that point, and then he then does the what do you call it? He doesn't just dislocate it, but he rips it out, and then he slices it, and we're coming to tell you that that's going to be possible. So it's coming to tell you possible shchita, possible malika. Rabbi Yecheskel holds there is no problem with doing ikur simonim by a knife. It's only by a behemoth that you can't remove the siman and then shecht it. But by if it's not a problem. So Amar Papa, so Papa says, so then it must be coming to exclude something else. When this statement of Shmuel, Lamute Roisha, it's coming to tell you can't shecht the bird, you can't do malika on the bird by its head. It's like Roisha Pshita, Imalarva Amrachman, V'lei Beroisha. That's not a chiddush. The Torah says specifically it has to be opposite his head and not on the head. My roisha is shipui roisha. We're talking about where he started the shchita on the slope between the head, the slope of the head, the bottom part of the head, right near the back of the neck of the bird. He started like going to knock him. Shipui roisha. He started by the roisha, which is not a kosher place to do malika. Vehigrim, like we said, mimular by not right. Vehigrim, and he slanted vazala demata tatoi, and he finished it in the proper place. He veered off. He veered properly into the irif, into the mimular by into the back of the neck, and he did the shchita of the simanim over there. That's what he's coming to tell you. Just like if you would do this by shchita, it would be possible. If you were in the wrong place when you started, even though he then moved through the halfway point to do the proper shnei shlish, the last 2/3, it's still possible since he started already off course. It was only right. We said that it was less than half when he got to the halfway point. Less than half of it was done b'shchita kshera, when it was Zman Lekitas Chiyusa. Amle Racha Breda Rav Ravashi. Had the Tanir Rabbi Cheskel. Ain't Iker Simanim by. That which Rabbi Cheskel said. There's no problem of separating the siman and then cutting it by an oif. That's only according to the Manda Amar that the din of shchitas oif is not a deraisa. It's midrabanan. the whole thing is a rabbinical construct that since we have shchita by behema, I guess, I don't know what exactly would be. I guess we'll get to it in a week or two. But I would imagine is that since we have shchita by behemoths, the Torah didn't want us to just eat a chicken by throwing it against the wall, which is actually something I once saw in in the Empire Chicken Factory. One of the sheikhtim, he was trying to impress us kids. One of the sheikhtim saw a bird that had some kind of mum on it, and he said, "This one's no good." He just flung it against the wall to smash it. I guess that he wanted to make sure that no one would be tempted to think it was shechted. So he just slammed it and smashed it into oblivion. According to the Manda Amar, that says that midaraisi you have to do shchita of a knife. Yesh ikor. According to that Manda Amar, if you hold it to midaraisi, that also includes that you have to be careful not to do ikor. Amalei adarab, I would say fakert. Ibcha mistab. Lemanda Amar yesh shchita leif minat Torah. According to the Manda Amar, that shchita's oif is a deraisa, which means the Torah never says the rules of shchita specifically. It's a halacha l'maisha misinai. So that means, according to Manda Amar, that the halacha l'maisha misinai of the rules of shchita by a behema, those also apply to an oif. The halacha l'maisha misinai extends to an oif. This is part of the halacha l'maisha misinai. The ain't ikar v'afilu Manda Amar. The ain't ikar, that there's no ikar for an oif. And even according to the Manda Amar, that says that the halacha l'maisha misinai is that the shchitas oif is necessary, just like behema, that it's compared to behema, or it's learned out from a hekesh, but l'gabi ikar, it's not treated like a behema. The halacha l'maisha misinai is limited. El Manda Amar ain't shchita l'oif min ha'Torah. There's no logical reason, there's no rational reason if it's a derabanan to distinguish and say there is a restriction of ikor, that you can't do ikor by a behema, and you can't, but there's no such thing by a knife. If the chacham were geyser, they were geyser called the geyser rabbanan kein the raisa tikkun, they would have included the din of ikor. But masha enkein, if it's the halacha l'maisha misinai, we can understand why there would be a distinction. That was part of the halacha l'maisha misinai, a distinction between behema and oif. Amar Ravina, Amali Ravin Bar Kisi, Hada Tamini Rabbi Yecheskel, Ain't Iker Simanim by. That which we've said, there's no restriction of Iker Simanim by a knife. If you do Iker Simanim, it's still a good shchita. Loyaman Ela b'malika. That only applies to malika. Ava b'shchita yesh Iker. That just means that if you do a malika where you remove the simin and then do malika, it's going to be possible. But by shchita, it's that by malika it's not going to be a problem, but by shchita it will be a problem. A possible malika, like we said before, this is the memory of the Amira. Shmuel said that whatever is kosher by shchita, the similar thing by the Erev is kosher malika. Possible, whatever is possible by shchita is also going to be possible malika. That statement is a broad statement, and it says that there is no distinction between shchita and malika. So Enochanami, he will have to disagree with this member of Shmuel that says that if according to Shmuel, if Iker Simanim is going to be possible by malika, it will also be possible by shchita. Amar Zeiri, Nishbara mafrekas v'roiv basa ima nevela. If you break the spinal column when you're shechting an animal, before you get to the simanim, you first break the spinal column together with the muscles that surround the spinal column. Then it's already in a vela. It's no longer capable of shchita. When you get to the simanim, it's too late. The animal is already dead. Even if it's moving around, those are just death throes. It's already a dead animal. The simanim, the shchita simanim is not going to be effective. Amr of Chizda, Afanana mitznina. We also have this in a Mishnah later on. We say malak besakin if someone does malika with a knife, meaning malika goes through the back of the neck. It's going to be tame with when it goes into the mouth, which oif is when it becomes an avela is metama beisabliya. That's the way we describe the nevela of an oif. The amr treifa havi l'kasa zuish chitasei tana l'sakan l'tayra midei nevela. And if you'll say that that it just becomes a treifa, then this malika, doesn't become an avela with this, but it just becomes a treifa. Then the malika should be the shchita when you do the sakin, that should be a shchita. So when he continues, if it were not the case that he already becomes an avela by cutting the spinal column with its muscle, then this shouldn't be true. So we've seen over here that it becomes an avela. This is the same proposition that he had already said, that Ziri had said. So Gemara Amri Hasa Mishum de Lav Shchiti Klal. He says no. Over there, when you use a sakin to cut from the back of the neck of a bird, b'maka malika, it's not going to be a kosher shchita. When you instead of doing malika, you do a shchita. My timer, Bruna Amem Neshu Machlet. He said it's not because you're cutting the spinal column, right? When you do a shechita with a knife on a bird, you cut through the throat of the bird to get through the simanim. Over here, he went through the back. We're saying it's not the problem of going with the back is not the problem of cutting the spinal column first. It's a different problem. Like we said, one of the 5 restrictions, you can't be machlet. You can't stick in the knife and cut it from the inside. When you stick the knife in, then it's not cutting while it's exposed. Machlet is like a chulda. So we'll see what the problem of machlet is. The Gemara will describe it exactly. Rava Amar Neshu Dairis. Rava says it's a different problem. When you use a knife, doing it like you do a malika, what you do is you push the knife down instead of doing a back and forth motion, which we saw before. There was Man Amar who said that that's not good by a shchita of a knife. So why? Mandam neshu machled, my time neshu dairis kasava, my luchu maybe mlika kasha. The Mandam who said the problem over here is chalada, he couldn't say dairis because he held ein chanami. You could be meiluchu maybe by malika, so you could do that with the knife. He also did meiluchu maybe, so you don't have the problem of dairis. Mandam neshu dairis, my time neshu machled. Why doesn't he say that he's covering over the knife as it's cutting? Right, because as you go into the back of the behemoth from the back, there's a distinction between the way it works when you cut simanim as opposed to cutting through the spinal column. The simanim is more flexible. So you cut through them, it just splits open. But when you cut through the spinal column essentially stays in place. The vertebrae stays in place. I mean, they're split, but the knife just goes between them. But the spinal column stays together. So once it gets past it, it's going to be covered over. It will sort of reattach, and it's not going to split open. It won't keep splitting open as if it would when you get into the neck. So he would say, why didn't he say Mishumachad? Amalach chalada hechidami. What is considered chalada when you're cutting from the inside when the knife is covered? Kecholda. Hadar be'ikre batim. It's like a weasel that lives underneath the house, the machse, which is hidden. But over here, even though he went through the vertebrae, and therefore the vertebrae don't split wide open, but it's a cut. And if you look down, you can see the knife. It's not fully covered over, so therefore it would not be considered machlet, even though it's not as wide open as from the neck when he goes through the back, but it would still not be considered chalada. Therefore, you have to say drisa. Okay, we'll stop over here because this is starting the whole thing.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yes.